Welcome to the Church in the Wild podcast. You'll be hearing the words from worship from Sunday, October 5th, 2025, where we begin our witchcraft series and have a discussion with Liz Pfister around tarot. If you want to learn more about Church in the Wild and all of our upcoming events and programs, just go to churchinthewild.org. Thanks for listening. Our poem today is Mysteries, Yes by Mary Oliver. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads.
Hi, I'm Hannah, and our wisdom today is from artist Michelangelo, and so the following quote says, "The sculpture is already complete within the marble block. Before I start my work, it is already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material. I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free."
Thank you.
All right, who do I pass the fuzzy mic to?
I will take it. I'm just going to give a quick introduction to our theme this month and to our guest speaker for this week and next week. Yeah, we've got Liz. So I decided we have some experts in some alternative modalities in our midst. And it would be really cool to learn about these tools and practices that have been used throughout human history for a while, some of them, and to talk about them and maybe demystify them a little bit. And so I was joking around about like, oh yeah, witchcraft, and then I realized we could turn that into a question, right? Witch, W-H-I-C-H, witchcraft. Are you trying out right now, or are you using for your spiritual life? So we're going to be looking at today tarot, and next week Reiki, and the following week Hannah's going to talk to us about astrology, and then the last week Caden's going to talk to us about crystals. And these are all different, like I said, tools, crafts, modalities that have been used for a long time in human history, and actually versions of all of these can be found in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. So folks today who are maybe a little fearful of the unknown have named these things witchcraft, the other witch, right? The witchcraft. And in a negative way, I think mostly people use that term for these things. But we're hoping to demystify them a little bit and show that they're not witchcraft, and that anybody, no matter what your faith is, no matter what you believe about the universe, about the world, about God, you can utilize tarot and Reiki and astrology and crystals. They are not belief systems in themselves. They are tools to help you in whatever your belief system is. So we have Town Clerk Liz Pfister, not in an official capacity, just Liz Pfister, owner and operator of River Maven here in Windsor, and Reiki master and tarot reader, teacher, to tell us this week about the art and tool of tarot.
So I thought I'd start with giving some background history on tarot. I'd love to talk about and teach about tarot because it's such a neat topic. Because we always think about tarot and we think of the movies with the little gypsy lady and the lightning bolt cracks, and the death card comes out and all that. And, Hollywood makes it very scary. It's really not, and it's been around for a very long time. So the origins of tarot are unclear, actually, but it's been attributed to the esoteric schools of philosophy in ancient Egypt or India. They were used by gypsies in the Mediterranean who are believed to have brought them into Europe. And the first record of tarot cards comes from a Swiss clergyman named Antoine Court de Gebelin, who published Le Monde Primitif, a study of religious symbolism. And he believed that gypsies were the first to use the tarot cards, and he also believed that they were descendants of ancient Egyptians. The first known deck appeared in Italy in 1442, and this they do have on record. And it was originally called tarocchi, and it was originally used for gambling and gaming. It wasn't fortune-telling. Women began using them later for fortune-telling. So, and there were 3 times in history that brought the tarot into popularity again. First was the Renaissance, because of the study of alchemy and the Kabbalah. It were popular during that time. Then there was a resurgence in the late 19th century that continues today when folks began following esoteric path of spiritual awakening. And then again in 1980s when a group of female tarot readers began using psychology to interpret the cards based on the teachings of Carl Jung. So it's kind of fascinating how it's lasted all this time, and it started with really primitive symbols on the cards, and the deck that most of us are familiar with nowadays is the Rider-Waite deck, and that was where they took those old ancient symbols and kind of made them more human. That's when they put the human form on the cards and things like that and changed it from just shapes. So each deck has 78 cards, and it's split into 2 groups. They're called there's 22 cards that are the major arcana, and 56 cards that are in the minor arcana, and that's similar to a deck of playing cards. It has 1 extra suit card than we have in our current deck of playing cards. So that's why they believe that they were, a game at first. And many feel that the major arcana is older than the minor arcana, that they were 2 separate decks that came together later in time. And I put down good notes, so I want to make sure I tell you them. Some stuff was new stuff I didn't know. And it was thought that the minor arcana was put together for gaming originally, and the major arcana was more for divination at the time. And arcana is the Latin word for secrets or mysteries. So when you look at a tarot deck, the 22 major arcana cards follow the life experiences and qualities that we acquire as we go through different maybe lessons in life, but also our lifetime, because everything is cyclical, right? And we start in the beginning with 0, the Fool, which is every one of us, when we're new and naive and don't know any better, and start out on a path. And then the last card, number 21, is the World, which is where we have learned all that we need to know, and we're at that enlightened point of that maybe lesson or experience. And then the minor arcana is divided into 4 suits, much like our deck of traditional playing cards. And they're generally are swords, wands, cups, and pentacles. Each is associated with an element, so it's very easy to tie them to a nature, a natural thing. And then people have also tied them to other things throughout time too. So there's a lot of different associations you can read about them. Each suit starts with the ace, and it goes through 10, and then there are 4 suit cards afterwards. And the ace is the start of our journey in any one of those suits. And 10 being the, the lesson learned. And then the suit cards then talk about who will be bringing those things into our being. But the cards are full of universal symbolism, and a lot of that. The cards are full of universal spiritualism that's been carried on through time. That's why they've been timeless, and they've been used again and again because people can see the meaning that was put into them initially. It was very generalized, right? There is definite correlations between the Kabbalah symbolism and the tarot deck. There's also strong numerology references, the elements, zodiac symbols, animals, the direction of figure faces on a card has symbolism. I'm told, now that I understand it more. No one tells you that in the book, though. And it's just fascinating. How I used them was I started with, I would every day take a deck, shuffle it, and pull a card out for a message for the day, kind of like an inspiration to move me through the day. I've used them in times when I didn't know what to do and wanted some clarity. I've asked the cards for some advice, some wisdom. And then, of course, I've used them as a business to read for other people as well. So there's a lot of things you can do with them. They're a lot of fun, I think. I think it's fun to play with them, and I don't want to say play with them in a way of like they're not important, because they are. They're spiritual tools, so they are personal, but they're fun to mess around with in your own life, your own spiritual journey or adventure, as you may want to call it. Yeah, you can use them just to give yourself, you don't necessarily have to use them to predict the future, more to give yourself clarity or insight on a situation that you're going through that maybe you're struggling with. Well, we're putting our intention into the cards before we pull them, of what we want to know from them, what kind of, if we want an answer or if we want direction. And then we're seeing what the universe has to show us. And I could tell a million stories, but it's amazing that even if you were to think that it's nonsense or what have you.
So your own personal will has a lot to do with what card comes up.
Absolutely. I'm like, yeah, for sure.
So basically it's kind of like looking in a mirror?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, a lot of times that's what I say. That, there isn't anything that we don't actually know the answer to, right? A lot of times we just don't want to admit it, or we don't want to hear it. And I think tarot does a good job of saying, yeah, this is it. Yeah, you're welcome.
These are like, what are these again?
They're more of an original style. So, yeah. And there's a lot of religion. Yeah. And there's a lot of religious symbolism in them as well. I just recently learned that Hierophant is a word for like a bishop. I know, right? That's one of your major arcana cards is the Hierophant. Yeah. And as you look through,
Is there a death card, or is that just in the...
there is a death card, but death is also about rebirth, right? Endings always bring beginnings. So actually, one of the other decks I have in that deck, she doesn't call it death; she calls it rebirth. So it's...
That sounds a lot nicer.
Yeah, right? I mean, they say death and they make it sound scary, but we know that when something ends, it's to make way for something new. So it's a beautiful thing usually. Well, always it is, really. Another scary one is the tower, because it's this, tower on fire and people are jumping out the windows. But that's about great change coming, right? Like unknown change, unexpected change, right? Suddenly. And sometimes that's good. sometimes it's unnerving. Well, it's generally always unnerving, but a lot of times it's good. A lot of times we need that shake-up to move us in a new direction because maybe we've been stuck or stagnant somewhere. Here, and I'll pass these ones around. This is the deck that I use myself, and I think it's happier. It's a more modern, but so that's what I have for you on tarot. If anyone has any other,
I'm curious, I hate to drive you crazy with questions.
no.
If you gave me a reading, my will would be responsible for what cards turned up?
Yes, because when I do a reading for someone, I have them shuffle the cards, hold them in their hands, and move them around, and hold in their mind's eye their intention of what they want to get from the reading. So you're infusing your energy into the cards, and then I just pull the cards out and give you the message from that.
Is every card different, or are there repeats?
Some things are similar, but they are all different. But you can see where some would have some very similar meanings. You can interpret them that way.
So I love this tool, and I'll tell you, I just want to share quickly. The first time I heard of I knew someone who had a tarot reading was actually my camp counselor from here, who was in seminary to become a pastor, and she didn't know what she wanted to do, and her grandmother said, well, let me take you to my friend and we'll do a tarot reading. And I was like, really? You did that? Is that okay? Is that allowed? You know, I was still a teenager. And so that sort of opened my eyes that like, oh, someone in the Christian faith who's going to school to become a pastor is using this tool. And she was the one who started talking about like, yeah, well, you know, in the Bible, how they would cast lots. You know, that was like asking God to flip a coin, basically. You know, it was like, I don't know exactly what casting lots looks like, but it was a thing of chance and asking God to affect that so they knew what decision to make. And I think of it today as, you know, a lot of people will just take their Bible and like open it to any page. Like, what do I need to hear today? And I think that's a similar thing. We have so many tools and like, I love your description, Liz, of these cards just didn't resonate for me, but these ones did. And so again, this is just another tool. For some, opening your Bible to a random page is going to be what resonates for you. For others, it'll be tarot or something else that we're talking about today, but none of them are evil. None of that, or they could be used for evil, right? They're all just tools. Anything that we use as a tool could be used for good or for ill. And it's just helpful to know about the different options out there. And if you're feeling stuck, or, you know, if there's a certain period of life where you're like, I just need some inspiration. I have a deck of Mary Magdalene cards that are based on her story and teachings and the little bit of her writings that we have. And sometimes I'll just pull a card and it is just like, oh, thank you. Yes, that's what I needed to hear today, that I am anchored in love or whatever, you know. It's another one of those oracle decks, I think. Yeah. So, I invite you to try it or not. And this is not like Church in the Wild's official sponsorship of tarot. It's like, hey, this is a thing that exists. Let's learn about it and how it might help.
You need something tangible, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when you're maybe strayed away from faith or that type of thing, when you pull cards, it's so funny because when you get the message that you need to hear, and all you did was just put your intention into a deck of 78 cards, and that's the one that comes out. Like, it's something about that. Just, it's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Have to, but on the other hand, I invite you to just take one out. If all you want to do is look at the picture, you can. This is not a tarot deck. It doesn't have suits, or you just take one card. It's more as, like you said, a mirror, a reflection that reflects our inner truth, or depending on your viewpoint, you might experience it as a message from the divine. I forgot to say, please don't look at it quite yet. But it's okay if you did. It's not a biggie. It doesn't matter. So I brought this deck because it seemed the images might be more accessible than the tarot. And they have no set meaning. I do have a little book from the artist on what she had in mind when she made them, but they don't have a long history of meaning like the tarot does. So we're just going to look at the card and contemplate its symbols and listen for any wisdom it might have to offer us. So you might want to start with an intention, a question, or something you're struggling with, a decision you need to make, or just bring an open mind and see what comes. One way to look with images is you could look at all the images in the deck and pick one that really seemed to call to you, but for purposes of time today, we're just picking one blind and trusting that what comes. Oh, sorry, I haven't been reading into the thing. Hoping that what comes will have wisdom for us. So before we start, let's just bring ourselves more present to this experience. Just feel your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair. Take one or two really intentional breaths. And just come fully into your body. Our bodies have a lot of wisdom too that we tend to ignore. Relax your mind. Scan your body for tension and invite it to release even 5%. And then when you're ready, take a look at your card. And try not to leap to conclusions about what it might mean, but if its meaning seems obvious or you already have an immediate idea, just continue to be with it and stay open to any more that might come. Notice the colors, the symbols, the relationships on the card. And try to let go of needing to figure it out and just let meaning come to you. Notice if the card evokes any sort of emotion in you. If it does, what do you notice about that emotion in your body? Does the image speak to something in your life? If it doesn't seem to, just be in a place of wonder. I wonder if there could be some message here for me about my life or the question I brought. Is there some truth the card might be inviting you to sit with, or some action it might be inviting you to take? Is there anything from your spiritual path that connects to this card? Then I invite you to just sit with the card for another couple of minutes in silence. Let it become your focus, but with a soft gaze. Sitting with it gently, not analyzing, but just receiving anything that your inner wisdom or spirit may have to convey to you. Not insisting that there be a message, just being open that there might be. May this be a time of insight, healing, and connection. I invite you to begin to wind up this time of meditation. Express inner gratitude for anything you might have received. If you feel like this has not been enough time and there's more for you there, feel free to take a photo of the card before you leave. Take it with you. And as we close, may any wisdom you've received from these images stay with you. And may the journey this card has offered continue in your life in ways that bring clarity, courage, and peace.
Thanks for listening. If you want to support Church in the Wild and the work we do striving for environmental and social justice, you can head on over to our website, churchinthewild.org/support, or you can click on the donation page link. There you can make a donation, set yourself up to be a recurring supporter, or you can buy something from our Redbubble shop. We're so glad you're with us on this journey, following the Spirit through creation, adventure, and restoration. Until next time.